Just be sure to unmute your mics.
Hi, everyone. Okay, we're ready to get started. So our session is entitled Incorporating Alternative Assessment in Credit-Bearing Information Literacy course to measure the transfer of learning. So we would like to introduce ourselves. My name is Marta Samokishyn, and I'm Collection Development Librarian at St. Paul University in Ottawa, Ontario.
And my name is Tsonos, and I'm the Head of User Services Librarian, also at St. Paul University in Ottawa, Canada. So before our presentation, I would just like to start with the land acknowledgement. So we would like to acknowledge the land on which St. Paul University is located is the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. We embrace the responsibility to help ensure that the next generations of land stewards are respectful and grateful for the bounty of this land on which we live, work, play, and study. So we're going to start off with a brief outline. So firstly, we're going to introduce the delivery context and our research problem. Then we're going to move on to the curriculum design of the library labs. We're going to move on to the form of alternate assessment, which is the evidence journal, so how we designed and implemented them, as well as present our case study and what our students had to say about implementing this type of alternate assessment. And finally, the lessons learned. So some of the considerations, some of the different things that we found and what we plan on doing moving forward. So firstly, we're going to introduce St. Paul University. So it is a small bilingual Catholic university with 4 faculties: human sciences, theology, philosophy, and canon law, and all of our programs are offered in both English and French. So in 2015, the deans and higher administration requested the library's involvement to better support students' learning. So just a little context for how many students we have. We are quite a small university, so we have about 1,300 students, graduate and undergraduate, with about 15 to 17% being international students, and we have a total of just over 950 full-time students. We have a total of 125 professors, including sessionals, and then only 3 librarians: the chief librarian, myself, and Marta. So we're quite small. So in 2018, we started a credit-bearing library lab. So basically, this course would be mandatory for students in human sciences, theology, and philosophy. So each student has to take mandatory courses called HTP courses, which stands for Humanities, Theology, and Philosophy. So the course would be offered in both English and French by professors and then the librarians. So we had about 25% of the final grade, which was a library lab that we offered over 11 weeks. It was 1 hour per week, and it was integrated into a course called Critical Analysis, Reading and Writing Academic Works. So why this study? So we basically wanted to see within the lab, what opportunities are we offering students to reflect on their learning? And also, how do we know if we make an impact on our students? The whole purpose of this lab was to help students develop critical information literacy skills. And we wanted to evaluate whether we were being successful for that by having a credit-bearing lab that was attached to a course.
So in information literacy, the whole concept of ungrading can be somewhat counterintuitive. For those of you who might know the context that we are kind of presenting from, so librarians often strive to provide grades. So there is a lot of movement towards integrating information literacy or embedding it into the courses. Since ungrading is such a flexible concept and there is a lot of different definitions and range of activities, it mainly also includes alternative methods of assessment. And according to El-Khoury, who said that research shows that the 3 reliable effects when students are graded, so they tend to think less deeply, avoid taking risks, and lose interest in the learning itself. So we wanted to actually implement different strategies of ungrading. So as I said, they can range from a variety of different activities. So it could be where instructors provide no grades at all, and instead they offer a lot of formative feedback, as well as there is a peer feedback element. There are also portfolios where students show how their work has evolved over the semester. There is something also called contract grading, where students select their desired grade and then complete a set of assessments based on that desired grade, and then also self-assessment, where students reflect on their learning. So there is this strong element of metacognition, and so this is what we have implemented in our labs. So according to Jesse Stommel, we have created increasingly elaborate methods of assessment, all while failing to recognize that students themselves are the best and always resident experts in their own learning. So therefore, focusing on this metacognition aspect or ability to self-assess is very important. So we try to kind of implement those metacognitive skills in our lab as well through the self-assessment.
So firstly, we wanted to review some of the literature and look at what are the potential benefits of using self-assessment methods in our course. So firstly, we found that it could be beneficial in terms of reflection. So self-assessment can help students develop critical thinking skills and reflect upon their own learning, i.e. metacognition. And we also saw that there were great benefits to self-efficacy. So self-assessment methods can have an effect on both student agency and self-efficacy. So being able to be confident in their own skill set and being able to develop and implement information literacy skills. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about curriculum design. So how we designed our library labs. So firstly, the lab was structured into 4 modules. So these 4 modules are based on the ACRL framework, so the Association of College and Research Libraries. And we used their framework for information literacy to design these models. So the first module was for searching as strategic exploration. So we had students develop and create their own research questions. We also had them discover the library tools and learn basic and advanced search strategies. The second module is authority is constructed and contextual. So we discussed how to understand different types of information sources, so by format or by content and audience, and by the context in which they were created. We also provided information on how to close read sources, how to identify authority, identifying arguments, evaluative literature. Module 3 focused on information has value, so understanding how to make connections by forming conversations between different voices and ethical foundations in academic work. And then the final module was scholarship as conversation, so learning to synthesize arguments, structure of the academic writing piece, and providing proper references. So in this module, we also highly focused on academic integrity as well as plagiarism.
For us, the leading frame was research as inquiry. So we implemented inquiry-based learning into the curriculum of the labs. So when it comes to assessment, we wanted to actually guide students through the inquiry model. The assessment included the following elements. So we had a search journal where students had to actually come up with a research question and then search for the information, as Victoria has mentioned. The next one was literature review matrix, where they actually evaluated their sources and learned to analyze them, including authority, currency, etc. After that, they had to create an enhanced outline which represented their academic integrity skills. And then at the end, we asked students to actually write their literature review based on all of these findings. So which was cumulative assignment, and then we had also a participation grade. So when it comes to the evidence journal, what we did, we mapped it to the learning outcomes and assessment. So after each at the end of each module, so we had 4 modules in total, learning outcomes for each, as well as assessment for each module. And then we had a self-assessment element, which was in the form of evidence journal. So in this iteration, we actually only had 3 evidence journal, and then in the future iterations of the course, we had 4 evidence journals, 1 for each module. So evidence journal is something that we have implemented based on the Human Restoration Project, and it's an open access resource available for adaptations. So we're not going to actually run the video here, but I will share the link to the Human Restoration Project. So we have actually adapted the evidence journal to fit the context of our labs. So it was quite simplified from the Human Restoration Project because we wanted to keep it short for students. So here is an example of the evidence journal as we implemented it for self-assessment for Unit 1, searching for information sources. So we have listed the learning objectives for this unit, and then ask students to reflect about how they have met this learning objective of any struggles they have had with these specific learning objectives. And then in the self-assessment part of this evidence journal, we ask students to identify their understanding of the concepts covered in Unit 1 using the emojis. So students usually like using those, they relate really closely to those. And so a lot of the students kind of use the last 3 emojis very often. And so we also asked about what was the 1 or 2 large takeaways that they have learned in the lab, as well as what was the muddiest point in the module. So this allowed us to get their metacognition, so not just about the course, but also about their learning and how their learning happens, as well as to understand if there are any concepts that we have to go back to and kind of cover again or work a little bit more on. And then at the end, we also asked them about their feedback. So what specific concept did they enjoy learning about in the unit? How can this lab be improved in the future? And whether they have felt heard, valued, and respected in the classroom. And so that was also very valuable feedback for us. So now we wanted to share with you the results of our case study and what our students had to say. First, we asked students how would they rate their understanding of the concept in the modules based on their confidence level. So this is their perceived confidence level based on the concept. So a lot of the students, you can see here a representation of how they would evaluate their confidence in module 1, 2, 3, and 4. So a lot of them, majority of the students were happy or chose their second emoji here. Some of them chose their heart emoji, and then there was also different percentages of students who were kind of neutral in their confidence level. And then that has decreased towards the module 3 and 4. So that was helpful information for us. In terms of identifying their struggles, so this is just one of the examples of how we could use the evidence journal to help us see where we have to put more attention on which learning outcomes we should focus more. So for example, here we talked about searching as strategic exploration, and we focus on developing students' searching skills. So 37% of students actually had issue with learning outcome number 4. I am able to use search strategies effectively in the library databases. I feel confident about it, including keyword, subject, and author searches. So we knew that students needed more practice with this specific learning outcome. And then learning outcome 2, 18% of students had issue. So it was, I can construct good research question in order to start my research process. So some of the students did struggle with this specific learning outcome. Then this is another example from module 3, scholarship as conversation. So here we really focused on academic integrity skills, and we can see that 27% of students still struggled with the understanding of the importance of academic integrity in their work and confidence about how to demonstrate it in their writing. And then also 10% of students struggled with understanding that research is iterative and not linear process, and that they can easily go back to any step and revise their research product.
So within the evidence journals, we also wanted to examine some of the common issues that could happen. So some of the students explained how they felt that they still weren't equipped with the proper tools in order to be able to complete either their research journal or their literature review. They cited a lack of confidence, being able to perform some of these tasks. They said that while they learned a lot, they really felt that they required a lot more practice as well as longer sessions with us in order to properly learn and implement these strategies. So some of the feedback that we got from students, so one of them is, I do not feel 100% confident using the search strategies, and I'm still intimidated by essay writing. Another student said that I am understanding the concepts well. I feel I just need more practice implementing them. And a third student said, I feel I understand the processes presented. However, I'm not confident in how to incorporate them into my already formulated research habits. And something really important to note here is that the majority of the students who take these labs are in first year. So they are sort of just beginning to understand the different, what's the word I'm looking for? The different processes in order to write an university caliber assignment.
So we were using the framework developed by Susie and Dreta, who implemented transfer and transformation as two qualitative ways of measuring the impact of information literacy. So according to Andretta, these measurements transcend the assessment of skills and knowledge by focusing on how the impact of the learning experience is manifested in practice. So transfer actually, according to Andretta, refers to application of acquired knowledge in different contexts. And so we know that information literacy skills are transferable skills. So we really wanted to make sure that students will be able to apply the skills in different contexts. So for example, other courses that they're taking or outside of their coursework, either in their professional life or even in their personal context. And then transformation refers to evolution of students' views of themselves based on the change of information literacy practice or understanding. So here are some stories that we were able to actually get from students about transfer and transformation.
So like Marta said, when we provided them with the evidence journals, we asked them how they feel they would be able to transfer these skills into either assignments in other courses or within the real world. So here's what some of the students had to say. So one student said, I have learned a lot in this unit, and what's more, I've applied it not only in this class, but in my academic career. It actually helped me gain a clear understanding of what I wanted to do for my doctorate. So that was a really nice, encouraging comment. We also received a comment saying, well, I've already started using the literature review matrix for another essay I'm working on in another class. Though at first I feel like I don't have the time to go through the process, I realize it saves me time in the long run. Another student said, my largest takeaway was really thinking about research questions and searching for examples in the library. It really lit a fire of excitement for me, and I think I will remember this as it will serve me well for years to come in my academic journey. And finally, one student said that this class helped me realize how much I did not know about searching for sources when it came to academic assignments. This takeaway will be extremely helpful in my future courses because it will help my creative writings that are based on more reliable sources. So this shows that the majority of our students did agree that the skills that they were learning within the lab would transfer into other courses as well as other parts of their lives. So we also asked them to examine their information landscape. So this is where they go to find information. We had one student who said, I gained much more clarity in my information landscape. This class actually gave me a huge passion that I did not know I had, or at least did not have words for it. And now I realize that it will be continued through my academic career, and I'm forever grateful for that. Another student said, I have many more places to go for information, and I am encouraged to continue to develop my information landscape. One student said, I wish I took this class while I was in my first year, as it would have made my life much easier, but I still managed to learn a lot, which was a really big comment that we had from some of the students that were not in their first year. And finally, we had a student say that my information map has changed significantly. I even think differently about how I find and consume my information for personal use, not just my academic or professional. So what we really challenge the students to do is to examine where they initially go for information when they have a question and how that has transformed throughout the lab. So finally, we're going to go through sort of some of our lessons learned. So what we've learned from gathering all of this information and where we'd like to go moving forward. So firstly, we noticed that self-assessment methods can help us identify areas where students feel they need more practice and are less confident in their skills. So since then, we have adjusted the lab to focus a lot more on things such as plagiarism, academic integrity, as well as searching strategies, as we found that that's where students had the most difficulty. Self-assessment can help us identify if students will transfer these skills. So if they're able to transfer them not only within our lab and our context, but within other contexts and other courses. As this also helps us identify if students are developing lifelong skills that they can take with them throughout the rest of their lives. And we also need to further explore other forms of alternate assessments for information literacy instruction and different methods of ungrading, because the evidence journal only represented a small portion of their total grade for the lab and the class, and that was mostly due to administrative constraints. So something that we would like to do in the future is try and incorporate more self-assessments and alternate assessments that's worth a bigger percentage in the lab. To maybe one day hopefully take up about 25%, which is the allotment that we have for the course.
There are a lot of different applications of evidence journals. In terms of information literacy, we have applied it in the credit-bearing information literacy courses, which provides more flexibility and help us map it to the learning outcome of the course. And then we can also apply it in the embedded information literacy instruction. So through collaboration with the professors and implement it after the information literacy session or when librarian comes into the course. And so if you are teaching courses and would like to invite your librarians to actually be embedded into your courses, this is something that can be done. And then the third one is the one-shot session. So it could be used as an exit survey of students' learning and effectiveness of information literacy instruction. So this is it for us. Thank you so much. We would be happy to answer any questions now, or you can also email us later. I just wanted to also point out that we have a lot of these resources, and we are happy to share them if any of you are interested in them. Thank you.
That's very generous. Thank you both, Victoria and Marta, for presenting. And if anyone has any questions, if you wouldn't mind typing them in the chat box. One question is, are the resources available at your university site? This is excellent. My students need this. Thank you. This was so interesting. So is the best way to just email you for the resources?
Yes, please email us and we will share the resources. There is also an open access course that was created in a team with other librarians. So a lot of our assessment that we have discussed similar to those or adaptation of those other, and it's an open access course. So, but evidence journal is not part of that. So I would be happy to share the link to the course, as well as we have a press book reading guide. And then I would be happy to also share the evidence journal if you email me.
Okay. And in terms of people are grateful, yes, they're responding, yes, please share the link. Determining the student's final grade, you had a chart showing the percentages for each of the areas. And so did you just calculate all of that? Is that what you did for determining the final grade?
Yes, so in terms of the final grade, we had several standard assignments. So we had the search journal, and then we had a literature review matrix, and then literature review, and then so the evidence journal was kind of additional thing that they had to do, and it was just we did not evaluate evidence journals. Obviously, we wanted to give students a lot of freedom to express their opinions without a fear of receiving a bad grade or anything like this. So that was not graded, but it was part of their contribution to the learning community. So if they completed the journals, all the journals, they automatically get the highest mark for participation.
Okay. Thank you both then. And on behalf of everybody, and thank you for the link you just put up as well. So thanks for your generosity in sharing and presenting today. It was great. So people can return now to the main room.